Hey everybody, and welcome to Libromancy, a podcast about the magic of books. I'm Josh, and today I'm going to be talking about Hemlock Silver by Kingfisher. So let's reflect the magic of books. Now, I'm going to keep it non-spoilery here for a minute. You guys know that I like to just get right into it, because the books are so fun and interesting to talk about. But this was a good book. I was actually able to receive an ARC of this book from NetGalley. Thank you for them. This is just my thoughts. I really liked it, of course, as I like most things, but this is just me. So let's talk a little bit in the non-spoilers about the characters. I thought the characters were all really good. I feel like there's a little bit of repetitiveness and like certain character attributes that keep happening in the like one character kind of does the same thing multiple times or is very simple, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in this instance. This is still a good story and it tells exactly what it needs to tell without being too long. Again, Kingfisher is like one of the masters in my mind of the unsettling, creeping dread feeling. That it's that slow burn horror where it just like creeps up on you and you're like worried and nervous and anxious, but not too anxious. So good. And she does it really well in a couple of spots in this book. Now, this book is not a horror book, so don't be expecting a lot of horror in here, but she does weave this little bit of horror into it, and it was really good. I thought she had good writing. I thought it was descriptive and well thought out, and the plot was good. I thought the pacing was good. I think we'll talk about it in the spoiler section, but I needed a little bit more before the 30-ish% mark of something, but that's fine. It wasn't bad. As soon as it got there, man, I was glued to this book and could not put it down. There was so much fun, just like an investigation of what's going on and how it's happening. So if you don't know, this is a Snow White retelling. I think it's more like a Snow White reimagining. I know it's there and it's very obvious if you're looking for it. I actually didn't catch it until after, because I didn't read the blurb because I was like, oh, it's Kingfisher. I know I'm going to like it because I've liked everything else she's read. So I just went into it and then, realizing, oh, it is a Snow White retelling after the fact. I thought it worked really well and I was kind of oblivious, but that's just how invested I was in it because I loved it so much. So, yeah, again, I enjoyed it. I thought the actions of the characters made sense and they kind of flowed well with what I was expecting from this book. So I had the perfect expectations going in. Okay, let's just get into some spoilers here because I'm kind of the slow on the things to talk about here. So let's, of course, start with our characters. Again, I rated this book really high. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. Let's talk about my problem with it first. And it's not even a problem. But as I started reading this book, I think I got to the 30% mark and there had been no real explicit mention of magic, which is fine. I just was expecting a little bit more magic or a little bit of something supernatural because it is a fantasy book and it is getting put in there. And so it makes sense because our main character, Anya, is not, she does not believe in magic. It seems like there's really no magic around in this series. It is just, the world. And so I was a little hesitant because I'm like, well, where's my magic? That's what really it was what really pushes me into the story and makes me love a story even more is the creative and unique use of magic in books, right? Like that's one of the things I really love the most. And so I was a little waiting for it. As soon as we found the silver apple and she ate the apple and then she fell into the mirror, I was hooked. I was like all in for it. I loved that. I love the scene where she falls into the mirror and she's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And the investigation. And that's where these horror scenes come from, is that like somebody's watching her sleep through the mirror, but they're watching her reflection sleep to try and like figure out who she is and stuff. Oh, that was creepy. And then the unsettling dread of being in the mirror and like that eerie silence that just is all over where there's nothing and there's nothing and you're alone, but at the same time you get that like creeping feeling that you're being watched or that something's going to happen. And oh, it was so good. I'm getting a little bit of a shiver just thinking about it again. But let's go back to our characters here. Anya is our main character. She's a healer. She deals mostly in poisons. To me, she read a little bit like she was on like the autism spectrum or Asperger spectrum because of her intense focus on poisons. If that's not the case and that's not how she intended to write it, that's fine. That's what I saw. teeny bit, like not very, very high functioning because she's able to have all these relationships, but she really struggles with social encounters. That's something that people with Asperger's and autism generally struggle with. So it makes sense to me. I loved her character, though, the way she gets into the magic. And this is true. Like, if I somehow fell into a mirror, you could bet that I would be testing it to see exactly what my limits were and what I could and could not do, right? I would be pulling things in and out. I would be testing things, Maybe I wouldn't be testing it as methodical as her because she is a scientist, and she knows her like scientific method. Okay, I'm going to test this. Okay, that's the answer. But you can bet I would be doing all sorts of things trying to figure out what I can and cannot do with this and how it works. So I loved that. We're going to talk about all the characters because this is the spoiler section. Snow, the king's daughter, she was interesting. The fact that she's willingly going into this, partially because she's been tricked into going into it by the Mirror Queen. And the Mirror Queen and the real queen, that was intense, where we learned that the queen basically brought her mirror self to life by accident, by bleeding on her, basically. It's the blood of the vein can awaken these mirror people, which is your reflection. So when you have a reflection in the reflection, it's created in the mirror world, and then the next time you go in front of a different mirror, it kind of jumps back and forth. But if your mirror is awakened, your mirror self is awakened, they don't follow the same rules. Like you still show up in the mirror, but your mirror self does not have to. That's how I see it, is the mirror self creates an alternate that does whatever it does. And especially if the person dies, then they are not bound by that anymore. So very good. But the Mirror Queen's plot to take over, and that the Mirror Queen killed the queen and tried to take over and switch them. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is intense. Like, what is going on? And then this was cool. Like, there's the Snow had a sister. Snow had a sister, Rose, and they established in the very beginning of the book that the king killed the queen for trying to cut out his daughter's heart, because the queen was actually trying to kill the mirror daughter's heart, take out the mirror daughter's heart, because the Mirror Queen had switched Rose and Rosie. And it's foreshadowed really well. Just a couple subtle thoughts about like, oh yeah, Rose was doing really good. And then all of a sudden she struggled with all of her buttons. She couldn't do things. She stopped being able to read as effectively. And it's like, oh, looking back, I'm like, it makes sense. She was from the mirror world, so everything's reversed. That was some like really nice foreshadowing that I didn't even pick up on, that's there for you to see. And if you dig into it, you could be like, well, why is she having a hard time with this and the buttons and things like that? And it's like, oh, because they're reversed, of course, right? Which I just praise to T. Kingfisher for including that a little bit. But the romance between Anya and Javier, I didn't really need it, but I'm not opposed to it. I liked it. I thought it was good. Maybe a little bit too much focusing on, this grimace that Javier gives her once, because from his point of view, her mirror reflection pushes its hand into his hand. And from her point of view, it's just the obvious miscommunication trope without actually miscommunicating anything, because she never asks, and she should have asked. So let that be a lesson to all of you in relationships. Just ask. It's better to ask and to know than to think and not. So, but back to Snow a little bit. So she's this willing person because she thinks her sister is alive in the mirror world and that the Mirror Queen is keeping her. But what really happens is that the Mirror Queen just needs Snow to eat the apples. The more apples you eat, the stronger you get, so that she can push the Mirror Queen into the real world and bring her basically to life again. Oh, it was so good. It's so amazing. So I really liked it. Like, I also loved Grayling. I thought Grayling was like the best cat. One of the best cats that I've ever read. He acted like a cat. He was like, he knows more, and cats always act like they know more and are better than you. And Grayling pulled that off to a T. He was so good. I don't make promises. What do you give me some cream? Maybe we'll talk. You talk too much. Just go away. Leave me alone. I'm going to lay down and sleep. Like, if you keep talking, I'm going to leave. So good. Oh, and one more thing on the horror side, the mirror guilds. Oh, those were creepy. So part of Anya's investigation, she goes into the mirror and her maid comes in and she's like, oh, it's my maid. And the maid takes a small hand mirror and reflects it so she can see herself through both mirrors at once. Kind of if you have two mirrors on a bender surface and you pull them and you can kind of see to infinity in both sides, right? She does that. And it's creepy because it starts manifesting in the dream world that these pieces just keep growing and splitting and pulling off, and its hands and its her head and it's her eyes and her face. And it's just one of the creepiest descriptions, but again, beautifully done. And then as soon as the mirror like stops reflecting it and her mirror self moves, they fall off and they are alive and they start wiggling and moving and grabbing each other. So the hands are grabbing other hands and they're spinning and they're rotating, and it's so creepy. And just, I mean, imagine if you see somebody's face or multiple faces, but just the face being grabbed by hands and like arms and like wiggling around, and they're not connected to anything, and they're this kind of dull gray sheen. It's just it's a thing. Like, it was so well described and scary. It was scary because one of them does end up grabbing her because the mirror gelds like hiding spots, right? So they're always kind of hiding, but we think they're evil in the beginning. It turns out they're not evil. They're just kind of mirror creatures. That's kind of what they are. And so they're like the only real sentient life in it, and they end up actually helping Anya and Javier escape from the Mirror Queen. I thought that was really good. There's this huge amalgamation of this parts. It's big, and it retwists and organizes itself to create stairs to help push them up and get them to the next spot and get out. And I'm like, I just couldn't imagine being like, okay, you're an amalgamation of horror and like scariness. You've got multiple faces everywhere. You've got multiple arms, and they don't connect to anything, and they're just holding each other, and like being like, here, let me help. Can you help me? And then them actually helping and trusting that they're not just going to like attack you. Beautifully done. So good. So of course they are able to stop the Mirror Queen, and then Snow does actually go back into the mirror to kill the Mirror Queen, pushes her through the mirror, and she disappears into dust. Very nice. I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. The atmosphere was really good. Characters I thought did great. Her plot was good. Like I said earlier, I didn't read the back because I knew I was going to like it because I like Kingfisher's writings. So I didn't know it was a Snow White retelling. And I should have known. You're like, well, Josh, why didn't you know when, the main character's name was Snow and there's mirrors and a queen? And I'm like, yeah, those things are all typical things in a fantasy book. Like, Snow is just a name. She has white hair. Of course it's going to be Snow. I did like that as a Snow White retelling. It really moved away from the whole, this is the, fairest of them all kind of a thing. It's more about like, I want to live and be on the other side of the mirror. So I liked that a lot more than just the generic Snow White retelling. So that's going to be all my thoughts about Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. Thanks everybody for listening, and thanks to David Hilowitz for the intro and outro music. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, please send those to libromancypod@gmail.com. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. It always helps out. And remember to reflect the magic of books.